launched is responsible for tracking the launch vehicle. And so the ground stations are on the ground with a large antenna. And they actually communicate with the launch vehicle to obtain information. That information goes to RCC and to understand the state of flight of the launch vehicle. So the monitoring is here. And the project manager, Mr. Okada, is also stationed at the RCC, right? Yes, you can see him just in front of the flag. So Mr. Okada, the project manager, and all of the key people of the launch is also seated here. If there is a person responsible
morning,
for
good evening,
satellite,
good
is also located.
welcome. We are here for the Mitsubishi Heavy Industries JAXA H3 launch that has multiple payloads on it. One of those is VEP4, the other one is CE-SAT-1E, and TRISAT. So this is a previous launch vehicle that was, this is not the actual launch, this is just a preview. The launch was scrubbed at the last second with its original planned flight. So this is a second chance at trying to get it to orbit. So we'll see if they are successful today. So this is a H3, or Mitsubishi Heavy Industries is the manufacturer of the rocket. And like I said, it was a failure. The first H3 that was intended to launch in March of 2023 with a dummy main payload. So they put a real payload on this one. They think that they fixed their error, and they think that they have a good chance of making it. So, as I said, this is a Mitsubishi Heavy Industries with a price tag of $50 million. This is fully expendable, no reusable parts on this at all. It has a thrust at liftoff of 7,542 kilonewtons. It is possible to take 4,000 kilos to geostationary transfer orbit, or GTO. As 2 stages and 2 strap-on boosters for the specific rocket. The rocket stands 63 meters tall with a fairing diameter of 5.27 meters and a fairing height of 10.3 meters. So pretty good sized rocket. So like I said, it's taken a couple different payloads today. The first is the VEP4. That stands for Vehicle Evaluation Payload 4. And it is a mass simulator. So it's a giant chunk of metal that they simulate mass, and they can simulate some kinds of movements with the mass, and that kind of thing. So it's helpful to get feedback and data on the vehicle without having too much impact on losing a ton of payload. So because it's expensive to put together satellites, and that kind of thing. So so it's easier to just put a mass simulator, and then you can get data and information back without taking the risk. This will be carried on the second test flight of the H3 rocket instead of the ALOS-4 Earth observation satellite as originally planned. It will deploy it after the second deorbit burn is complete to test the payload separation mechanism. It's another thing. A lot of these systems have to have that friction, that tension, that payload on them to function properly. So that's also a huge part of it. Is you can't just set it up there with nothing. Much like when Elon did Falcon Heavy, he put Tesla Roadster on there. Kind of that kind of deal. Total mass of that payload, the mass simulator, is 2,600 kilos. And it is going to Sun-Synchronous Orbit. The other payload we have on tonight's mission, CE-SAT-1E, 70 kilogram class optical Earth observation satellite from Canon Electronics Inc. Similar to the previous CE-SAT-1 that was launched previously. I don't know if it was a second one. It could be a test mission that was really cheap to get up, that kind of thing. Usually don't throw up the same satellite twice. But maybe they had it around as a mock-up or a backup. A lot of companies would back up satellites. Maybe it's really cheap and they said, we'll throw it up. So that's a total mass of 70 kilos. That's also going to Sun-Synchronous Orbit. And that's from Canon, the same manufacturer that manufactures cameras and things like that for consumer goods. The last satellite will be a TriSat or a 3U CubeSat by Japanese Space Systems and other institutes to test an infrared sensor for Earth surface observation purposes. So it'll become some kind of IR sensor, probably to test elevations or feedback loops or something like that. It's very small. It's 5 kilos. And that's also going to SSO or Sun Synchronous Orbit. We're going from LA Y2 or Tanegashima Space Center out of Japan. This would be like I said, the second mission of the H3 and the first mission for the H3 in 2024. So this is what we have for the rocket so far, and they're obviously speaking Japanese, so I'm not going to turn it over just yet. I'll shut up and let them let you hear the rocket and that kind of thing when we get closer. Don't have a ton of data for things like separation and that kind of thing. But the last one we got to watch with them, they were very, very transparent with those kind of details. So the hope is that that we get some information. So these are liquid propellant rockets with strap-on solid rocket boosters. Joint coordination between JAXA and Mitsubishi. Cheaper engines compared to the Hayabusa 2A that they've been using historically. More cost effective, less risk, that kind of thing. They've had, like I said, one mission, one failure. So not great. Not great. They'll probably have some new variations once we get going into it a little bit deeper. But that's what we got right now for the test. Trying to see if I can dig up something, just kind of some general information about what staging and burn times and all that kind of look like. It's a new vehicle, so there's not a ton, honestly. Hopefully, we can see something though. As you look at the countdown clock, we are T-minus 4 minutes and 33 seconds and counting from launch. It is go for launch as of right now. We'll get a go no-go poll probably a little bit closer to the actual flight, as we normally do with other things. This forecast calls for a temperature of 60 degrees Fahrenheit, clear skies, and a cloud cover and a wind speed of 9 miles per hour. So we'll get winds at about 9 miles per hour. So nothing crazy as far as weather. We should have green range conditions on weather, which is always a good thing. It just takes one of the variables out of it. They did not publish a trajectory at all on this one or a mission profile. So we don't have any indication of when staging or that kind of thing will or has happened. So there's no published. Just trying to read through real quick. First digit number, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just trying to read through. So they've kind of said how they're going to break it down in the future, but it doesn't apply to this one that is being a test mission. So there's a breakdown to how their numbering convention and that kind of thing. So on future ones, we might know a little bit more information, but this one we're kind of in the dark. So So it's billed as a much more, let me see what that said. It's billed as a much more customer-oriented launch vehicle. That's the billing for the H3 from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries specific webpage. No, I don't want to update right now. Thank you, though. So it says there's either, and I don't see because it's wrapped in that shroud at the bottom, but it's either 2 or 3 main engines, so first stage engines. And there's 1 second stage LE5B engine. But again, the information is very light, being that it's still a test vehicle. And we should get more as we go. It kind of looks to me like they're using maybe their 3.2 variant, because it looks like we have 2 strap-on boosters on this vehicle. So 3 mains, 2 strap-ons. So we either have 2 or 3 mains and 2 strap-ons. So it is the drill, the Mitsubishi drill that will pierce the heavens. So yeah, unfortunately, we don't have more information on what's exactly in it. They don't even talk about what the booster propellant is. They just stated as solid. So we don't even have like what kind of chemical makeup is in the boosters. We do know that it is LH2 or liquid hydrogen mixed with liquid oxygen. So the greatest part about that is that it burns to produce water instead of harmful chemicals. So when they burn to produce water, we're coming up on T-minus 30 seconds. So we'll listen in and we'll watch from here.
フライトモードオン。
フライトモードオン。
加工品トーチ点火。
ハイドロジンパージ、イグナイターオン。
全システム発射完了。
All systems are go for launch.
メインエンジンスタート。
Main engine start.
SRB3 点火。リフトオフ。
Solid booster ignition and lift off.
H3 ロケット試験機2号機は
jumped
2024
off
年
pad.
2月17日午前9時22分55秒に種子島宇宙センターから打ち上げられました。
We have a successful lift off of the H3 launch vehicle test flight number 2 from JAXA Tanegashima Space Center at 9:22:55 a.m. on February 11th, 2024, Japan Standard Time.
打ち上げ以降、ロケットの管制は竹崎発射管制塔から竹崎総合司令塔に引き継がれています。
The operation control of H3 has been switched from launch control center to range control center.
ロケットは現在、東南東方向の太平洋上へ飛行しています。
H3 is now flying above Pacific Ocean to the east southeast.
打ち上げ後、1分が経過しました。
It's 1 minute into flight.
ロケットは正常に飛行中。地上局のロケット追尾状況も正常です。
The H3 flight is on course, and the ground stations are tracking the launch vehicle, and all is good.
SRB3 分離。
Solid booster.
Separation.
I'm going to turn that down just a little bit because that still can't be rocket noise. That wouldn't make sense. It's 60 kilometers up. It wouldn't make sense that it was still rocket noise. So I'm going to turn it down just to barely in case something happens, we can hear it. Obviously, we see the strap-on boosters have disconnected from the vehicle, and they're starting to float back towards Earth. That thing jumped off the pad. That was fast. That was impressive. Looks like those boosters were still burning, which is never good to have a projectile that's burning uncontrolled. So, but as we know with the solids, those are burn it, light it, and let it go. There's no way to put it out, no way to relight it. It did want to go. It was ready. So we're 3 minutes into flight. I assume that would be main engine cutoff, just based on that first dot and kind of its mission profile kind of deal. All right, we have no more counting, so I'm going to attempt to turn it back up. Oops.
So the satellite fairing has been separated. Now we have been able to confirm that. And so H3 launch vehicle test flight number 2 has been launched. It's going quite steadily so far. And
Okay,
so
yeah, it was
the
separation.
screen that you're able to see right now, and this is called the flight status indicator for public for the H3 launch vehicle, which is abbreviated to H3 Feb.
Thank you for the English. So payload fairing separation was that
the direction the launch
so
vehicle is
first
traveling
stage
on
MECO
shown
is
in
going to
this
be
line.
1.
And so
I'm just going to turn them out. So your first stage engine cut off. So that's going to be your mains, or MECO as we call it in other space flight. And then we get the stage separation, just like other launch providers. And second stage ignition 1 or SES1. That will be shortly thereafter. So everything looks good. We're at 217, 220. Still climbing very fast. Which makes sense in an SSO orbit. We're not seeing a LEO orbit, so you would need a little bit of higher apex on that first set of burns. So as you can see, we're about 260 meters, and we should start leveling off. I would imagine somewhere in the 300 kilometers, excuse me, range would be where you'd want to start leveling. Speed's a little slow, not bad slow, but 12,006. And now we're losing speed because we're not under propulsion. If you can see, we're going back down to 12,540 and continuing to fall. We should have relight of that second stage engine, so we should see it pick back up here, or at least stop falling. Wow, they went really high. We're at 360 kilometers now. 71. So it should be under power. So we should see the speed picking up, not falling. And it looks like we could get almost to 500 kilometers on that initial climb. Just based on their track. Again, not knowing anything about it. Maybe even a little bit more. There we go. So now we're starting to see speed pick back up again. If you're watching the velocity in the upper left-hand corner. It seems like it might be struggling just a little bit and struggling trying to get up to speed there. Maybe it's almost a little bit better to run a little bit longer on that first stage so you're not losing as much velocity and using as much fuel on that second stage. You want to keep that momentum going. If you stop and you start slowing down or start reverting, it's hard to pick that back up. or it takes more delta V, it takes more, I'm not struggling, you're struggling. It was. It looks like we're starting to go again though. Wow, we're still climbing. So we're at T plus coming up on 8 minutes. Again, where for anybody who launches regularly, this is about the time that SpaceX is entering their landing burn, and we're about 10 seconds from a traditional SpaceX touchdown. Now, again, it's not the same because we're going to GTO and then SSO instead of being low Earth orbit or LEO. So our altitude's way up there, 630 kilometers. But we're starting to pick up speed now, so it looks like we got momentum back. Second stage engine cutoff 1. Oh, that type's very small. So T plus 1628. So it's going to burn for about another 7 minutes. So that makes sense in the lower speed because the further you go away from Earth, the less speed you have to maintain orbit. The closer to Earth, the more you speed up. So being that we're almost 700 kilometers, which is quite a climb, it makes sense that we're still at that kind of speed. So it looks like payload separation first, second. Yeah, so in about 6 minutes, we should have that second stage engine cutoff. Be interesting to see where we kind of flatten out. Looks like there's an orbital track. I assume that's their orbital track. Once they go around once. So as far as our height, it looks like we should be close to the top range of that height. Jason, I didn't know. There wasn't a published profile, so I didn't know what to expect. I knew we were going to GTO, but I didn't know that we were going straight there. So, to me, it seems inefficient when you can raise orbit. I don't know if they wanted to get there quicker for whatever reason. But you can raise your orbital inclination with small burns at apoapse and periapse without having to go all the way there. So it's interesting to me. It's not necessarily wrong. There's not necessarily a problem with it. It just seems like it could be slightly inefficient. And it appears that we're close to that max height because we're not climbing at such a rate as we were before. Looks like we're kind of stabilizing around that 728, 730 kilometers range. And given the rate of speed, I would imagine that they're going to be going pretty quick. They're going to be going close to probably 23 to 25,000 kilometers per hour. Maybe even a little bit faster. No, the rocket did not have it didn't have any problem that I saw. No. I was just really unfamiliar with the profile, and there was nothing published on it, so there's nothing I could reference it to. It's a test flight, so it's a brand new vehicle, which makes them hard to predict. This is not Falcon 9. This is Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. This is a Japanese aerospace exploration agency vehicle that's made in tandem with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in Japan. So we're about 3 minutes away from main cutoff. And then it will be in a stable orbit, if I can speak. And then we'll probably cut off too, because that will be a successful spaceflight. Yeah, see, we're leveling back out because we're dropping height in statute miles. We're back down to 713. So maybe 700 was the target, somewhere in that range. Something to definitely take note of, because then we can predict a little bit more next time what kind of system and abilities we're going to have. So what to expect. So we're coming up on 1.5 minutes, closer to 2 minutes actually, because we have some change with that minute. Close to 2 minutes. And as we see, we're at 689 statute kilometers above Earth. And we're at a climbing speed at 23,700 kilometers per hour. About a minute left until that cutoff. And that first stage will not be recovered. It was dumped into the Pacific Ocean. So no, it will not land. It supposedly it's going to become a fish habitat at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. So they intentionally designed them to kind of explode out so that they can deposit them for use in coral reef building, that kind of thing. That's at least their stated goal. I don't know. And we have second engine cutoff. We stopped way faster than I thought we would at 27,387, 88, 87, 88, 89. Somewhere in that general velocity of 27,388 kilometers per hour. And we stopped at 674 statute kilometers above Earth.
E have been successfully separated. So this will be the first satellite up into the second stage orbit. So it's so moving.
All right. So yep. So they're going to deploy that first satellite. That CE-1E. So that was the Canon payload, the Canon Imaging Center, approximately 70 kilos from Canon Electronics Japan. TIRSAT will be next. That's that very small 5 kilo satellite. And then they'll dump and burn up the mass simulator. So great flight. Great job, JAXA. Thanks for does Japan use the same field as SpaceX? No, they use the OG formula. Same thing NASA uses in Artemis, or the Space Launch System, which is pure liquid hydrogen and pure liquid oxygen. So that is going to be it for us this evening. Great flight, great job by JAXA and Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. We always like seeing new vehicles. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button so I can cover more and more things. If you are new or have been here many times, please hit that like button on your way out. And until next time, have a good night, everybody. Hope to see you soon.